Coming up on the FSR Sarcfighter podcast, Susan Smith has cardiac sarcoidosis.
In 2024, in May of 2024, I was in a spin class and I went into ventricular tachycardia arrest.
Susan wants to feel better, but her problems keep on coming.
But also, I'm being evaluated for small fiber neuropathy, and one of the symptoms I'm having is my body doesn't regulate temperature well.
This is the Sarcfighter podcast, living with sarcoidosis and other rare diseases. Here's your host, John Carlin.
Hello, this is episode 168 of the FSR Sarcfighter podcast. I'm your host, John Carlin. The date of the recording, August 10th, 2026. And I do hope you're feeling as well as you can be today. And also that maybe you've got a bit of hope, because that's what we try to give you here on this podcast is hope. We want to tell you about sarcoidosis. I want to tell you other people's sarcoidosis stories, or let them tell you. I want to bring you up to date on everything that I know of that's being done in an encapsulated form in terms of the battle against sarcoidosis. And yes, strides are being made. A lot of important and smart people dedicated people are working on some solutions. And so if you don't have hope, maybe this will be your reason of hope for today. All right. My guest on the show today is Susan Smith. She's been through a lot in the last couple of years. She has cardiac sarcoidosis, and she's being tested for small fiber neuropathy. And I don't know a lot about the testing process. She says it takes about 6 weeks. And so she is now in the process of waiting to hear back after some of the initial testing happened. So she doesn't have the results back yet. But she'll be sharing her sarcoidosis story with us here in just a few minutes. And I do think that you're going to find what she has to say very interesting. She's a good storyteller, and she's got a good handle on what's going on with her in terms of describing it. Like all of us, I think she wishes that the medical community had more answers. But in terms of describing what's going on with her and telling her story, she's very clear, and I do think you'll enjoy it. Also, I want to point out that she raises a question about a link between personality and sarcoidosis. So be sure to listen at the end of the interview as we explore that question a little bit. All right. And a reminder that, by the way, if you're having trouble with your insurance company, FSR is trying to help out. FSR now teaming up with a group called the Patient Advocate Foundation to offer support for people with sarcoidosis. If you're having trouble navigating insurance, your disability benefits, and other financial challenges. And as we all know, people with sarcoidosis are, once you get past prednisone, pretty much all of us are taking off-label medications for sarcoidosis, or we want to be taking them and we can't get them approved, there's a myriad of problems you can have with insurance companies. So at any rate, I think that's something that you can look into if you want. It's the Patient Advocate Foundation. FSR had just about a month ago, a little less than a month ago, put out a news release on this new partnership, and there will be a link in the show notes, or you can go to stopsarcoidosis.org, the FSR website, and get more information. Seems like forever since the last podcast, episode 167. That's where Tony Haskell shared his story. And at that time, I told you I was prepping to head to Washington, D.C. for the in-person FSR board meetings. And I went. The board is in the strategic planning phase right now. If you've ever been on a board of directors for any nonprofit, this happens every few years. You sort of say, all right, we had a strategic plan. We've been working on it for a few years. Let's sort of reset our focus, or at least examine whether we need to reset it, figure out what's going well, figure out where maybe we want to focus on something new. And so this was 3 days of this, and there was a lot of discussion. My brain was exhausted at the end of every day. But this is a process, right? The discussion leads us to new avenues that have to be investigated before we then make decisions as a board and with our outstanding staff. The professional staff we have at FSR is just unbelievably good. And I just feel so reassured whenever I listen to them talk and share their insights and share their, not perception, but share their knowledge, I guess, of what's going on and where the challenges are and where the opportunities lie. And these are folks who live this. God, I mean, you got to sleep sometime, but the rest of the time they're thinking about FSR. They really are. It's just, we are really, really lucky to have this group of people working on our behalf at FSR. So let me share a couple of takeaways that I can, right? First of all, I want you to know that FSR is financially sound. It's the best it's ever been. And so now it's not a question of how do we survive, how do we cling to life, how do we find some way to try and finance some research and help some patients. That's all happening, right? The research is happening, the patient outreach is happening. But the question is, as we take this amount of resources, whatever it is, right, and we work towards our goals more effectively while also planning for longevity, right? And protecting the organization over the long term, because we want FSR to be here as long as it's needed, right? And presumably, unfortunately, that's going to be some time. But on the other hand, things are going along just fine. And we were talking about how much money do we award researchers versus how much do we apply to patient programs? How much do we apply to our legislative priorities and making the government and the National Institutes for Health aware of sarcoidosis and aware of the fact that we're here and get them to put more money in our direction, right? These are all things that cost money. They're buckets. I think of them as buckets, right? They're all important, and it's the board's job to work with the professional team to figure out what we put in each bucket. The good news is, as I said, we're in growth mode. There's a larger staff than ever right now, and all those people are working on the agendas that work toward serving the patients, and serving the patients is very broad, right? You can be serving a patient by paying for research. You can be serving a patient by having support groups. You can be serving a patient by making it easier for you to find the best place to get treatment for your rare disease. So all of that's going on. We're trying to figure out how much do you appropriate for each one, and then you go forward. So and right now, I think what we have is I think sort of a starting point and some direction. I think we know what we all think is important, but then, as they say, the devil is in the details. And so now we've formed some committees, and we're working through the details. So all I can tell you is stay tuned, but you should be confident that things are going in a positive direction. All right. Speaking of that, I just finished my second major bike ride of the summer. My wife, Mary, and I joined about 175 other people on a bike ride from Albany, New York, down to New York City. We rode for 6 days in a row. The longest day was about 65 miles. And we were riding on something called the Empire State Trail. Empire State Trail is interesting because it's not just one trail. And you've heard Royce on the podcast, who's been riding the various sections of the Empire State Trail as a fundraiser for FSR with his Cycle for Sark initiative. I was doing this for quote unquote fun, depending upon what did you ask me. I might have used a different word. But we were riding the Empire State Trail. And it joins basically from Albany down to New York City. You're taking each community along the way has a greenway or a rail trail, or there are country roads that have been connected with signs. So you'll get to an intersection and it'll say Empire State Trail this way, etc. And so you can navigate all the way from Albany down to New York City pretty easily. And spend I would say 70 to 80% of the time, my estimate. And there is a real number for this. I don't know what it is. But I would say let's go with 75 to 80% is on rail trails. And the rest is either back roads or little town roads. And I like it when you break out into town and you get to see the quaint little downtowns. And they are very quaint in the Hudson Valley, because what you have is New York City money, the people who make their money in New York City, which is substantial. I mean, let's just face it, it is what it is. And they tend to live in these bedroom communities. And even if you get an hour by car or an hour and a half north of New York City, you're still in big money, right? Well, these little downtowns are just absolutely beautiful. So I like it when you're on a rail trail and you've got woods all around you and streams and ponds and beaver dams and beaver houses and shorebirds and all the fun things. But when you break into a little town and you see the man-made things, or you see the very, very nice homes with manicured landscaping, I also enjoy that. And so we got to see a lot of that on this pathway that eventually takes you into the Bronx and then into Manhattan and then finally right down into Brooklyn. And it's, like I said, most of the time you're passing woods and swamps and reservoirs. But the most memorable part of this ride is riding into Manhattan, and all of a sudden the tall buildings are all around you, and there are also so many people on the trail. So we're not riding out on the road with the traffic, all right, to be clear. We are riding on a designated bike path, but everybody in the world is riding on that same designated bike path. And they're also rollerblading. There's people walking. There's people with children. There's dog walkers. There's people on e-bikes, and there's people on rental e-bikes. And don't even get me started on the people who are rental e-bikers, because they have no idea what they're doing, right? I mean, they know how to ride a bike, but these are not people who would consider themselves to be cyclists. They're people who needed to get somewhere. They swiped their credit card. They got on a bike. And all of a sudden, this non-cyclist, if you will, now has more ability to for speed, right, than I do. And I'm a pretty sophisticated bike rider. I do this a lot. I know the rules of the road. I know what you do. I know what you don't do. These folks don't know that stuff, and they're going faster than me. And I gotta laugh because that's their greenway too. But you got to look out for them. And I'll just tell you a funny aside. So we got to ride over the Brooklyn Bridge, and I thought, wow, look at me. I just rode my bike all the way from Albany, and I am doing something I've never done before. I am riding over the Brooklyn Bridge. Holy cow, look at me. I'm quite the cyclist. And coming at me in the opposite lane, because the bike path and they're both they're narrow, right? There's a yellow line up the middle. And maybe there's like a sidewalk width on either side of the yellow line. And here coming at me are people who must obviously do this every day. And here comes a woman on an e-bike, and she's holding like a chihuahua in her arms. And I'm thinking how cool I am. And, I'm riding my fancy gravel bike, and I'm going over the Brooklyn Bridge, and here she comes paying no attention to anything. She's got her one hand on the handlebars and one hand around a Chihuahua, and she's got a basket in front, and she's got something in the basket. She's going somewhere, she's doing a chore, she's visiting somebody, whatever. And this is just like ho-hum, yeah, I just got to get across the bridge. And I'm thinking, no, this is the Brooklyn Bridge. This is like her walking out her front door every day, right? I mean, it's just so every day to her. And I just had to laugh because, it's just perspective, right? It's at the end of the day, it's just perspective. What I thought was the coolest thing in the world, and I don't want to call it a bucket list because it's not like I woke up one day and said, I want to ride over the Brooklyn Bridge. However, I think from this point forward in my life, I will tell people that one time I rode my bike over the Brooklyn Bridge, and wasn't that cool? This person was like just going for groceries with her dog. Anyway, all told, we rode about 265 miles. I didn't have any issues I could attribute to sarcoidosis or to my Achilles injury. That seems to be healed up. It was a bit sore a couple of days, even more sore than it was when I was telling you about the other big ride we did this summer across Virginia. But it's okay. Everything is okay, but I was aware of it. I'll just leave it at that. I was aware of it, and I probably need to back off a little bit, and I probably won't, but anyhow, I probably should. However, I will say this. I have to admit that I have let myself go. I saw myself on my bike, and I've got this vision of myself, right? Because I've been watching the Tour de France, and I've got this vision that I'm like this fit guy. Yeah, I'm older, but I'm a fit guy, and I'm riding a pretty nice bicycle, and I just think that I look a certain way, and I see myself in the mirror, and not in the mirror, but like in the reflection of a store window, and I've gained weight in my midsection, I've lost strength, and clearly the date on my birth certificate is starting to become a visible issue. It is so hard. And then you add in the fact that I have sarcoidosis, and so there's certain things that aren't comfortable, and so I don't do them anymore. Well, that's starting to accumulate. It's not starting to show up. I'm acknowledging that it's showing up. And man, that's tough. And then the average age of people on this bike trip is 65. I've never been, honestly, Mary and I had never been on a bike trip like that. But everywhere we looked, we saw people who more or less mirrored us. And they're all out there, and they're all riding the 250 miles. And so, but when I look around and I see them, and then I see me in them, and now I know why the early explorers were searching for the fountain of youth, right? I mean, so yeah, now I know why they're doing that. So I made a resolution on these many, many miles on this trip that I'm going to start pushing back from carbs and sugar. I'm going to get back to the YMCA, get back to the weight room, maybe hire a personal trainer. And I do have to admit that I'm at an age where I wonder if I can achieve the fitness that I want. I know I'm not going to be 35 again. I'm not going to be 40 again. Which is when I was really probably in the best shape of my life, and I was running marathons and so forth. But it used to be, and I knew this, if I let things slip, I could go lift for a few months. I could go run a little bit harder with a little bit more intention. I could diet, and I could feel pretty good about myself, where I was physically. Well, now I'm wondering if between age and sarcoidosis, that I should just be happy for whatever fitness I have and grateful that I can do what I can do, because I'm not sure that if I throw myself at this, that I'm going to be able to get back to, I'm not going to be able to get back to something that would make me happy. I just don't know. But on the other hand, who likes dieting and lifting heavy things, right? So maybe I just say la vie and ride off into the sunset. Who knows? Thanks for listening to my diatribe. And coming up, Susan Smith shares her story.
I feel like a zombie, just feeding and stumbling.
Hi, I hope you're enjoying the Sarc Fighter podcast. You may be wondering, what can I do to help? How can I be a part of the sarcoidosis solution? It's simple. Make a donation to KISS, Kick In to Stop Sarcoidosis. 100% of the money goes to the Foundation for Sarcoidosis Research. Look for a link in the show notes of the Sarc Fighter podcast. Welcome back to the FSR Sarc Fighter podcast. Susan Smith is joining me today. She's a fellow Sarc victim, Sarc fighter, Sarc warrior. Susan, welcome to the podcast. How are you feeling today?
Feeling great. Thanks, John.
Okay. So, you are in Maryland, correct?
Right.
Okay. And you've been diagnosed with cardiac sarcoidosis, but you've got some other stuff going on. Let's back up a little bit and talk about the events that led to your cardiac sarc diagnosis, and then we'll get into some small fiber neuropathy things and some other stuff that you're also dealing with. So let's how did you know? Because from what I understand, you're an active person, and kind of like me, you were in a spin class. Is that right?
Right. In 2024, in May of 2024, I was in a spin class and I went into ventricular tachycardia arrest. And so I was pushing it. And then the next thing I knew, it felt like the lights were coming back on, and I realized I was on my bike and I wasn't pedaling, and people were lifting me up off the bike. And once they got me on the ground, I felt alert. I didn't feel like any pain. I thought I was embarrassed, basically. And they walked me out of the spin room and put me on one of those where you get a massage or you do stretches at like a
Sure.
bench.
Yep.
And I was adamant. I want to go home. I felt fine.
Uh-huh.
But they were smart. They were really smart. They called an EMT. The EMT came and she did EKG, and I said, I just want to go home. This is ridiculous. And she said, no, your heart is beating 200 beats per minute.
Oh my God.
And I had no idea. And I'm just so grateful that I went into VTAC arrest where I did. If it had been at home, I wouldn't be here, basically.
Right. Right.
I would not be
Wow.
here. So
Wow.
they knocked me, gave me, whatever, they gave me some kind of sedative. And
Yeah.
so I had no idea that they shocked my heart back into rhythm.
Yep.
And then I was in ER. But at that time, I had already had a pacemaker about 6-7 months ago. Before I had a pacemaker put in.
Huh.
And so I knew I had heart failure, and I knew I had an ejection fraction of around 35-40. I knew that I had a partial heart block. By the time I went into VTAC arrest, I had a complete heart block.
Mm.
Yeah, so it actually, in May, when I went into VTAC arrest, we couldn't get an imaging right away because to get a cardiac MRI, you can't have any loose dangling leads that go to your heart.
Uh-huh.
And because of the multiple procedures I had, like they put in a defibrillator right there in May. They wouldn't let
Okay.
me leave ER without a defibrillator.
So
And that,
this was May was when you had the incident in the spin class.
right,
Okay.
right.
Yep.
In
Okay.
the previous December, I had a pacemaker put in. So they had to take out the the device that was just simply a pacemaker and put it in for a defibrillator that would also pace me. and that left a lead dangling.
A
So,
lead, like an electric lead from the electronics they were using to basically give you your heart pacemaker.
yeah, that
Okay.
attaches to the heart.
Right. But they couldn't do imaging because that thing is sticking around.
Because it was, yeah. So when there are very few electrophysiologists I've learned
Yeah.
who are comfortable with removing those leads. It's a little bit more dangerous than actually simply inserting a lead. And the
Really?
older the lead is in, the more calcitrate, how more stiff
Stiffer it gets. Sure. Yeah.
it becomes more of a danger because you could actually
Right.
take out heart muscle with it.
Right.
So I was fortunate. I mean, I was able in July, from May to July, I was able to get an electrophysiologist who could remove that dangling lead. And then this same hospital stay, they did the imaging that I needed.
And where were you? Were you at Hopkins?
At that time, I was actually at Washington Hospital Center in DC,
Okay.
because that's where that primary cardiologist that I initially saw was affiliated.
Okay.
Um, and so that when the imaging came back, I really already knew I had SARC because I had done the reading and done the research, and my primary cardiologist had over 40 years of experience, and he had thrown out the term sarcoidosis. So,
Sarcoidosis. But it's still a long shot because there's so many, how many people actually land on SARC as the cause? Like, were you lucky or did you really think you had SARC?
oh,
Lucky
I,
with your own self-diagnosis.
I, I, I knew I just knew I had SARC
You
because
just knew it. Okay.
I read enough to feel like it's not going to be that cardiomyopathy. It's not going to be that cardiomyopathy. And I know that from a scientific perspective, that you don't say SARC without a biopsy, which
Right.
honestly I never got.
Yeah.
But I mean, we did a biopsy of my heart, but because of SARC it being so patchy, it's really hard to get a
Right. You got to go in and get it in the right place.
yeah, and
Right.
then
You got to get your sample from the place where the SARC actually is. And you're not the first person to have had that problem and described it here on the podcast. Um, okay, so you go to spin class, they take you to the hospital, they decide that you need a defibrillator, which is an upgrade from the pacemaker. They want to scan your heart, but they can't until they get all the electronics out of your body, which have been there for a while. You get that done, you get the scan, and the scan says that you have something, but it's not a biopsy proved case of sarcoidosis, but the scans, what does the scan show?
it showed that my heart was inflamed,
Yep.
and it showed significant transmural scarring as well
Okay.
as endocardial scarring, but primarily epicardial on the outside of the heart.
Okay.
And the pattern was very um it was emblematic of SARC, the
Okay.
pattern of the scarring and the thinning of the walls in this basal septal area.
Yeah.
Um, and I responded right away to prednisone.
You did.
They blasted me like with 40, I think, at the beginning, and I didn't have to be on that high dosage. They quickly were able to put me on 20, and
Wow.
I went on my Fortic and all of that real quickly.
My
And,
Fortic. Now that's a new one for me. My Fortic. How do you?
okay. I actually misspoke. Mycophenolate. And then later on, I started having GI issues. So they gave me a version that is a little bit more gentle on the GI system, which is
Okay.
my Fortic.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, so now I just want to back up. Why did you have the original pacemaker? Could you have had something going on before and you didn't know, or what?
Oh gosh, yeah. I have I have puzzled over this so much. I actually wonder how much this is typical for women,
Uh-huh.
not wanting to be a hypochondriac, not wanting to complain.
Uh-huh.
Um, and so I knew there was something wrong,
Uh-huh.
but I didn't feel comfortable really asserting it. Even in the spin classes, I could feel my heart wasn't completely inflating. If
Yeah.
that's weird, but
Yeah.
I really could feel like there was a stiffness, there was a wall.
Yeah.
And I just didn't feel comfortable complaining. Before then, during the pandemic, I got out of the routine of going to the um, gym
Yeah.
because I was afraid with this spin class with the fans.
Yeah.
So I was just doing a lot of walking, and that didn't disclose to me how what the changes were happening.
Yeah.
But once I got back into the gym, I thought, oh, Susan, you just finished menopause. You didn't exercise rigorously throughout the pandemic. This is all your own doing. You can get back on the horse.
Well, those are logical conclusions. You
Yeah,
know, I mean, those are finishing menopause and all the different things that are happening with your body at that point, plus the pandemic, plus walking instead of the gym. I mean, all of those are legitimate answers to why you don't feel like you did before the pandemic. So you're not making stuff up. That's
yeah,
legit in my mind,
yeah,
right? But
yeah.
you didn't want to complain, but you must have convinced somebody that something was wrong for them to put the pacemaker in.
Well, someone convinced me. In October of 2023, I had to have a uterine polyp removed. And before they sedated me, all the nurses kept coming in and taking my pulse. And they were shocked because my resting heart rate was in the 40s. And
Mm-hmm.
actually, I was at that time wearing an aura ring.
Mm-hmm.
And I already knew my resting heart rate was in the 40s. Because I I didn't know that that was something really that I should be bringing to my primary care
Okay, okay.
physician.
Well, I'm just going to say this as a fitness person.
Uh,
Like, I am proud of my low resting heart rate. And mine is sometimes in the high 40s, low 50s when I'm super fit from bike riding outdoors
right.
and doing cardio exercises ad nauseum. So, were you thinking, "Wow, I'm super healthy," or were you thinking, "No, I'm unhealthy"?
No, it was the nurses that kept saying to me, "Are you an extreme athlete?"
Okay.
And I kept saying, "No." And so my gynecologist, who was new, it was a new doctor for me. She put my EKG in my my chart that
Yeah.
so that my primary care physician could see it. And it just so happens I went to my annual a couple of weeks later, and the my primary care physician said to me, um, "You've had bradycardia for 15 years. Some people just tick more slowly. I don't think you need to see a cardiologist."
Hmm.
So the bradycardia could have been masking, or it could have been because I had simmering sarcoidosis.
Right.
It could have been burning out and coming back, burning out. I mean, I have a lot of scarring.
Yeah. Huh.
The bradycardia could have be just simply masking it, or it could have been a symptom of it.
Did you have the fatigue then? Like, because a lot of times fatigue comes with active sarcoidosis. So, like, you can't pass the couch without taking a quick nap.
I would say the fatigue I is more a part of my life now
Now,
because
okay.
I've had a recent flare.
You
But
have.
at
Okay.
that time, I mean, it was difficult. Like I like to hike. I like to hike with hiking clubs,
Mm-hmm.
and whenever people would go uphill, I just really couldn't keep up.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to stop going with hiking clubs.
Okay. All right. So we've I'm sorry because I've deviated because you said so many interesting things. You got your defibrillator, you come out of spin class, and they're chasing the diagnosis. They find the scarring on your heart, and at some point you've decided you have sarcoidosis, and you reacted to the doctor. I guess the doctor agreed with you. They gave you prednisone, so somebody must have thought either they were just chasing inflammation or they're chasing sarcoidosis. It's the same thing, by and large. So, where did that take you to?
Um, well, that was I really was very affectionate. I really loved my doctors over at Washington MedStar, and they were treating it like sarcoidosis.
Okay.
Um, but I decided to transfer my care to Hopkins for a number of different reasons that had nothing to do with Washington MedStar, and I've been really pleased with that. I feel like I have another rare manifestation of cardiac sarcoidosis, and I
Right?
kind of like having they actually have a team of doctors that just work on cardiac sarc. And
Dr. Barney Stern is one of your doctors, right?
yeah, he's
Yes.
the neurosarc
Yes.
specialist that's
Yes.
evaluating me now.
He's been on the
And-
podcast. So,
oh,
yeah.
okay, all
Okay. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I actually have reoccurring pericarditis, which is where the sac that is outside of the heart becomes inflamed.
Uh-huh.
And so it's really painful. We're assuming it's pericarditis associated with sarcoidosis. There's
Wow.
other causes of pericarditis. It can be a virus, but I've had no symptoms of a virus. It's when you like lay down or you inhale deeply, it's very, very painful. And from a VTAC situation, it's not ideal for me because it can cause adhesions in the pericardium. And I didn't tell you, last summer I had an ablation for the
Oh,
for the ventricular tachycardia. Um, and so right now, during the pericarditis episodes, I've had
yeah.
three. My defibrillator has not fired, which
Okay.
suggests that the ablation was really effective or
Uh-huh.
could have been effective, whatever.
Right.
But at some point, and the great likelihood is the VTAC will come back. If it does, and I'm having multiple firings of my defibrillator, then I will need a surgical epicardial ablation.
Right.
And the pericarditis, if it causes adhesions, that could make that procedure trickier. Really,
Wow.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
trickier.
So, I just want to back out just a little bit and just talk about how this is all impacting your life. Are you married? Do you have kids? What's going on? What do you do for a living? Tell us a little bit about Susan.
Right now I work part-time in
Uh-huh.
a public library and I love it. The people are so you know, exuberant about
Uh-huh.
providing service for people who come into the library. And I really enjoy my colleagues a lot. Um, and it's amazing. I work in a county where, as a part-time person, they'll give you full medical benefits.
Wow.
So, with the disease that I have, honestly, I feel like managing this disease is another job.
Yeah.
I mean, staying on top of insurance, that's my big thing now. We're
Yes.
trying to get me on biologics, but it's an issue. I'm getting push back, and so yeah,
Yep.
I live alone. I don't have children, and I'm not married. Um, it has been rough because my community used to be much more about fitness, like the
Hmm.
spin classes and the hiking clubs. So,
Well, and you rode your bicycle across New York, you told me years
yeah,
ago, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow.
I've been on some amazing bike rides. My favorite was going down the coast of Oregon. I,
Oh
or
man.
no, it was yeah, from Southern Washington down. Yeah, it, yeah. And we ended up in California. It was just that was just a beautiful, beautiful ride.
Yeah.
The most
Okay.
scenic ride.
So
Um,
anyway, because anytime I have a chance to deviate to bicycles, I will. I'm sorry. So the point is you've been a fitness person your whole life. That was your community. Now
yeah,
your community is the patient sitting next to you at Johns Hopkins.
yeah. But I found another way to get a little bit of a cycling fix.
Yeah.
In my county, they have a class called Aqua Spin, where they
Okay.
actually put spin bikes in the water.
Really?
Yeah, and the water helps hold you up, and it's not nearly as rigorous as a spin class. But also, I'm being evaluated for small fiber neuropathy, and one of the symptoms I'm having is my body doesn't regulate temperature well. So I get overheated all of a sudden out of the blue for no reason, and it's hard for me to cool down, and I get anxious, and that makes it harder. But
How
this
long
I
how long do those episodes last? This overheating?
It varies. Sometimes it can be just a few minutes, sometimes it can be several minutes. And it's really unpredictable.
And do you get lightheaded when you do that?
Um, no,
No.
no, not at
Okay.
this time. But
Okay.
the fatigue, I think the fatigue is a symptom of the neuropathy, but we still don't know. We're still investigating this. Um, the aquaspin helps me regulate my body temperature.
Okay, good. I'm sorry. I deviated again, but because one of the symptoms of sarcoidosis is hot flashes,
Yeah.
which looking back before I was diagnosed, I had those, and it sounds almost like what you're describing. For no apparent reason, all of a sudden I'd be sitting at breakfast and I'd be sweating, and I couldn't explain it, right? So, and then looking back, that's commonly described as one of the symptoms. So, is that what you're describing here, or is it something different than that?
Yeah, it is kind of like hot flashes. And
Yeah.
that's why, being a woman, I'm 59 now, I thought, well, maybe there's a way that menopause could sneak back.
Right. Yeah.
But
Right.
it's no,
Well, I
no.
was getting them at the same time my wife was going through menopause, and I was thinking, oh, it's sympathy pain or something. And I didn't want to tell anybody because all my buddies would make fun of me. He's like, oh, you're going through menopause, John. Um, but it turned out it was a real thing. I'm sorry. So I've deviated. I've gotten you off track again, and I apologize. Uh, so anyway, so it's the small fiber neuropathy. Have you been diagnosed with that yet, or are you in the process of that?
I'm waiting for the biopsy, the skin biopsy report. Dr. Stern, he gave an opinion that in his doctor's notes that he thinks that's what I have. He jotted down all the symptoms that would line up for it, like the dry eyes. My eyes are very dry.
Mm-hmm.
Dry mouth. Oh, I can't think of them all now.
Right.
But the one that's irritating me so much is that temperature dysregulation. Oh, my feet. There's this really weird feeling in my feet. It's not a shooting pain, but like it feels like I'm walking on marbles and on the balls of my feet. Oh, and another is the chronic, and I've had this for a long time now, chronic low blood pressure, which
Okay.
has made it hard to treat my heart failure because those medications tend to lower your blood pressure.
Mm-hmm.
So that was another one that lined up well with small fiber neuropathy.
And so
And
they're in the process of testing you, but it's like it takes 6 weeks to get the results.
to get the biopsy, but he did a lot of in his office. He did a lot of kind of voodoo type assessments, where
Really?
like get little pin pricks at different parts of my body, and then he got this vibrating thing, and and put it at joints. And do you feel the vibrating, the pulsing?
Yeah.
And I was like, what do you mean?
Like
And then he would,
a tuning fork type thing?
yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then he would move it somewhere else. I'm like, oh, that's what you mean. Well, no, but it was just, it really is. And then he would like scrape, like run something like a scraping motion at the bottom of my feet. And um,
Yeah. How did your foot react to that?
um, I think it reacted appropriately to make it less likely that I had neurosarc from just I it didn't I think it either flexes out or flexes in or something like that. I think to be a neurosarc reaction. And I remember I use AI a lot with my doctor's
Sure.
notes.
Sure. Yeah.
And it seemed like, oh, okay, that's why he did that. And
Yeah.
I passed.
Well, when they did that to the bottom of my foot, I about jumped off of the table. Like it was like, whoa, what's that? Because I have really significant neuropathy because of my spinal cord injury caused by Sark and the surgery. So when they did the bottom of my foot, I was like, what was that? And he's like, okay, that tells me something. So you didn't have that reaction, so that's
No.
good. But the neurologist will use that tuning fork and they'll touch different parts of your body and they want to see where you're getting that response, right? What you can feel, what you can't feel. I just know that from having experienced it. So now you are into that, and your dry eyes. What is the connection between dry eyes, as you understand it, and small fiber neuropathy?
Well, I think the fibers can actually become damaged.
Uh-huh.
And um, yeah, I didn't really bring this up with Dr. Stern other than to acknowledge that I have dry eyes. I think with SARC, though, the dry eyes can also be the lagrimal glands can
Mm-hmm.
actually have sarcoidosis.
Yeah.
So what exactly is the cause of my dry eyes is to be determined. I can say that I had two LASIK surgeries decades ago.
Mm-hmm.
So that actually reduces the, uh, I guess the neurons or whatever. It
Right.
affects your eyes tearing. It can give you
Okay.
dry eyes. So
Okay.
it did give me drier eyes, but
Mm-hmm.
now it's extremely dry.
And you're taking some experimental eye drops?
Yeah, I am. One night I in my sleep I gouged my eye with my fingernail. And when I woke up, I remembered I had done that, but I didn't know it was going to be so severe because my vision was really distorted.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to the ophthalmologist that day, and my cornea was damaged.
Mm-hmm.
And so um, we're using an experimental eye drop to try to uh, reshape the scar
The
tissue
scar tissue. Okay. Yep.
to avoid having to do a cornea transplant, which I think
Wow.
is kind of complicated with the other issues of my eyes, with the dry eyes and possibly with, small fiber neuropathy, where it's all experimental, and I'm just going with the flow.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you just don't want, boy, you're just chasing it in so many directions, and everything that happens seems like it creates another layer of complication.
Yeah.
Yeah, welcome to your world as a SARC patient, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So right now you are you're trying to get on biologics, but insurance is pushing back, which they always do on that. Which one are they proposing for you? Humira?
That,
Remicade?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Humira is what my team of doctors eventually settled on.
Yeah.
Um, and, you know, it
Good luck.
having, yeah, thank you.
Good luck.
I feel like when I go, get a tent and camp out in front of someone's house and say,
Right.
you need to approve this drug.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's just always my doctors finally got Humira approved for me, but it was a process. And then eventually, after a couple of years of that actually working, The insurance company has got me on a biosimilar to Humira, and which is cheaper, but we still have to reapply, and we still usually will get at least one letter of rejection before the doctor can prevail and get it done. Um, so the doctors know that game, and insurance companies know that game, and I just want to grab a couple people by the shirt and shake them. It's so frustrating, you know. It's all about money. It's I know it's off label and I know it's expensive, but some executive somewhere is on his yacht and we're over here fighting for the drugs that we need, and it just makes me so mad. Anyway, high risk, high reward, I guess, if you're an insurance company. But for the rest of us, we got to play the game. I'll get off my soapbox. So what are you able to get back to the gym now, or are you not even thinking about that? Are you walking?
Well,
What are you doing with your life when you're not working at
yeah.
the library?
I kind of had kind of like what you had an injury that had nothing to do with the sarc. I had a sacroiliac joint injury this spring.
Hmm.
So that kind of it's been a long healing process. I feel comfortable getting back into exercise with the support of water.
Mm-hmm.
My plans are to start walking on I like the C&O Canal where I live. It's real flat.
Yeah.
I think I'll start back in the fall on that. I think that'll be safe. But I injured it in it's the joint, it's a common injury for people who shovel snow. I was just to have these flower pots that were really heavy, and I kept bringing them from my balcony inside, from my inside to the balcony, and that's twisting motion, carrying something heavy bent over, really messed up that joint. So I injured it in March. I re-injured it in May. So now I'm being extra conservative, and
Right.
I'll start walking, I think, in the fall, like September, October distances. I love to be in nature. That's my
Uh-huh.
favorite.
Right.
So yeah, that's really what I need. And I've been thinking about, well, maybe an electric bike. I have carpal tunnel, so I gave away my outdoor bikes. I'm not comfortable putting that investment in without having a group of people I know who will go with me. Um,
E-bikes are fantastic. I'll just tell you that. They really are. You know, the bikes where I mean there are different types of e-bikes. There are some that just you pedal and you can get various levels of assistance. So, you know, usually like the one I've ridden, I don't own one, but I've ridden them, and you have like we'll just call them one, two, three, and like three is like turbo. You know, you don't hardly have to pedal at all, and the bike just goes, right? And then
mhm.
there are some e-bikes where you just have a throttle, like you don't have to pedal at all if you don't want to. You know, you just hit a button and the bike goes. Um, so, which is fun too, and it would get you in nature. Probably
Yeah,
wouldn't get you quite as much exercise, but you might enjoy it.
yeah, I think I will.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that would be yeah, it's in there. It's that seed has been planted.
Right. I want to
Hmm.
explore one other thing that you and I talked about, which is personality and the connection between personality and sarcoidosis, which I've never heard anybody raise that question before. But you said your mother suffered for a long time with essentially an undiagnosed illness that could have been sarcoidosis, but she was just never diagnosed. But you and she had the same personality?
Oh, yeah, yeah. Well, actually, the NIH gave her an official diagnosis but this was about 30 years ago.
Okay.
So with technology and imaging now, there is reason to wonder if that interstitial lung disease was associated with sarcoidosis as opposed to whatever that don't ask me the name that they gave it. It was really long.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, she's had um, three children to survive her. And out of all of us, the person who is the most like her is just me. Our personalities are so much alike.
Hmm.
So when I got a, a diagnosis of an autoimmune disease, I wasn't that surprised because I thought, well, that's what happened to mom. She lived when she got diagnosed. She was said that they predicted she would live 3 years,
Mm-hmm.
and she ended up living 16.
Hmm.
Uh, and it was, lungs, connective tissue. It was not a pretty 16 years. Um, but to go about our personalities, we are both kind of reflective people and
Mm-hmm.
people who deep empathetic people, and maybe have a tendency to attribute to ourselves a responsibility for everyone else's welfare.
Right.
Um, Whereas, like, my sister is so cut out of my father's DNA. They are just so optimistic and opinionated.
Uh-huh.
And they walk into the room and everybody knows they've walked into the room. There's no,
Right.
where my mother and I would slink into the room.
Uh-huh.
Um, my brother's probably more of a hybrid. Um, I've just been curious about how there could be possibly a personality gene that's on the same gene that brought me a proclivity for autoimmune disease. I don't know.
That's really interesting. I've never, I don't know if there's any research on that topic. Um, it'd be interesting to see if there is, um, because I don't think there's any indication that sarcoidosis itself is hereditary, right? Um, my sons have asked me about that, and I said, boys, I've got three sons. I said, I don't think there is. Um, and my parents, grandparents, as far as I know, nobody had any sort of anything that looked like sarcoidosis. So um, that's just using me as a quick case study, right? Um, but that's a really interesting topic, and I know you do a lot of research. But have you found anything that suggests that there's a connection? I mean, other than you and your mom were a lot alike?
No, I haven't really dove into that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Interesting to explore. I wonder how many listeners are kind of like going through their minds right now and saying, "Huh, yeah, I was like dad. I was like mom. Mom was sick." Or I don't know. I don't know. Anything else you want to add about your story? Like what you're looking forward to? What do you think is going to happen with you?
Well, I don't know if this is a right place to make a plug for something that on August 27th, Hopkins facilitates a patient education event, and it's a really good time to be with other people. I mean, I feel like my work environment is absolutely lovely, and I'm so grateful for it. Yet sometimes it can be exhausting to always have to fake wellness.
Hmm.
And that's what you have to do when you're in customer service, because sometimes you just don't feel well.
Right?
And I'm looking forward to it being around people who get it, who know that, sometimes life doesn't always feel great, and
Yeah.
you can kind of let down the mask and share.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's August 27th of 2026.
Yeah, I think it's the 22nd. Or this,
Okay.
yeah, Saturday the 22nd.
Saturday the 22nd. So
Mhm.
today, as you and I are speaking, it's August 10th. So that'll be relevant for the first, it'll be dated information as the podcast lives on. But for a couple of weeks
Mhm.
here, we're good. So glad to
Mhm.
get that information out there. Is there a place on their website where we can refer people?
I think if you Google say sarcoidosis,
Yes.
you can get their events, and that's just one of them.
Okay. I'll see if I can track that down and put a link in the show notes. Sarcoidosis. Well, Susan, it's been a fascinating discussion. Thank you for sharing your story, and I'm sure all the listeners appreciate it as well.
Well, thank you for doing this podcast. It's definitely helped me feel less alone with this disease.
Good, 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 good. All right, we'll stay in touch, all right?
Sure.
I feel like a zombie, just feeding and stumbling.
All right, thanks to Susan for talking with me. And by the way, that was this recording is happening on August 10th. A lot of times I'll pre-record my conversations with people, but today, as I'm speaking now, my discussion with Susan only happened a couple of hours ago. So that's all very fresh off the press, as we say. But again, we have a person who's been active her whole life. She is a fitness person. She was, in fact, in a spin class when she was overcome with the heart condition, the sarcoidosis, the cardiac sarcoidosis condition that caused her to wake up after having blacked out and going to the hospital. And man, she's just been through it, and she's still searching for that combination of drugs and therapy that get her into some version of control or remission. So, but thank you, Susan, and she has agreed to stay in touch with me, and I really look forward to getting an update once she gets the results back from her small fiber neuropathy study. And let's see where things go from that. And she has transferred to Johns Hopkins, which does have the Sarc Center, a very, very, very good one. Again, for me, it was between Cleveland and Johns Hopkins. Cleveland got back to me first, and so I wound up choosing Cleveland. But I think either one is a fantastic choice if you're somewhere in the Mid-Atlantic and you are looking for a place that's really above and beyond when it comes to sarcoidosis. Okay, this is a good time to contact me. I am lining people up for the fall, and I would love to have you on the podcast. If you want to share your sarcoidosis story, you can ping me at carlinagency@gmail.com. The official Sarc Fighter song is Zombie by Mark Steyer, and Mark's story, the story behind the lyrics, is in episode 12 with an update in episode 118. I release this every other Monday. As I'm speaking today, my trusty dogs Dougal and Shandy are in my wife's office. They are not keeping me company today, and I'm not taking it personally. If you're new here and you're trying to figure out what Sarc is, listen to episode 2 with Dr. Simon Hart. My story is episode 1. You're always welcome to reach out to me. The email is carlinagency@gmail.com. Until next time, keep fighting.
Learn to suffer, you feel pain someday. Learn endurance, your strength will fade away. Dead man walk